Respected dignitaries on the dais, industry members, all the guests and friends from media, a very warm welcome and good morning to all of you. And thank you so much for joining us for She and SME Inclusive Future Speaker Series, Ahmedabad. Starting with the program, I would like to introduce our dignitaries on the dais. Ms. Poonam Kaushik, co-convener for CII Gujarat State Panel on MSME and Vendor Development, Deputy Managing Director and Chief of Corporate Affairs, Meteoric Biopharmaceuticals Private Limited. Dr. Hina Shah, Founder and Director, International Center for Entrepreneurship and Career Development. Ms. Ruchika Avasti, Global Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Lead, Boeing India. Ms. Fanny Champaneria, Assistant General Manager, Human Resources, L&T Limited. Mr. Ashish Kaul, Director, Knowledge and Advisory and Business Head, PSE, Business Society for Human Resource Management, India. Ms. Ozel Lobo, Manager, Portfolio Services, Shell Markets Private Limited. Ms. Monica Yadav, Chairperson, IWN Ahmedabad Chapter and Founder, Respire Experiential Learning. I would also like to welcome Ms. Tejaswini Karalkar, Public Engagement Specialist, US Consulate General in Mumbai, who will be joining us virtually. Now I would like to invite Ms. Poonam Kaushik and request her to take over.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a beautiful morning when I meet such august gathering, all my panelists, and get to know some very powerful women. And of course, Ashish, when he entered the room, he really lighted it up. So thank you very much for coming here at 10:30 on a working day. And I'm sure that whatever key takeaways that you all are expecting from today's session, I'm sure we will all try to enrich you with the knowledge. On behalf of CII and CII's MSME panel, a warm welcome to all of you for joining for this workshop. Today, we are hosting the first conversation in our She and SME Inclusive Future series, organized in partnership with the US Consulate Mumbai. I'm delighted to welcome Ms. Tejaswini Karalkar. She is joined us virtually, public engagement specialist at the US Consulate Mumbai, she has guided and supported us in this initiative, and we thank her for her presence and participation today. Thank you, Ms. Tejaswini. It is my privilege to welcome Ms. Hina Shah. Dr. Hina Shah, founder and director, International Center for Entrepreneurship and Career Development. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Ms. Ruchika Avasti, Global Equity, Diversion and Inclusion Lead at Boeing India. Thank you, Ruchika, for joining us. Ms. Feni Champaneria, Assistant General Manager, Human Resources, Larsen and Toubro. Thank you, Feni ji. Mr. Ashish Kaul, Director, Knowledge and Advisory and Business Head, PSC Business, Society for Human Resources Management of India. Thank you, Ashish, for joining us. Ms. Ozel Lobo, Manager, Portfolio Services, Shell India Markets Private Limited. Thank you, Ms. Lobo. And of course, my colleague, Ms. Monica Yadav, Chairperson, Indian Women Network, Ahmedabad. Thanks, Monica. We are grateful to all of you for sparing your time to be with us. India has climbed 8 places in the annual gender gap report and is ranked 127 out of 146 countries in terms of gender parity from last 135. I think we are nowhere closer. I think there's a huge gap in terms of the gender gap report. On our 4 key market markers of index, economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment, India has window of opportunity to make improvements in each, so that one of the most populous country in the world may contribute to the economy, growth and development of the society. When we talk about politics, we definitely should applaud the government for the 33% women reservation, although reservation is not my personal favorite as a word. But I think we all are moving in the right direction. It is pertinent to take a note that World Bank report says that if India can boost its growth by 1.5% to 9%, per year, if 50% of the women can join workforce, so we can add to 1.5% of the growth of the GDP in our country. So I think empowering women should be the agenda for sure. The aim of the workshop, that's why, is to create sustained engagement for building a consistent narrative and creating an enabling environment for gender collaboration towards equality and opportunities that can be catalysts for a more resilient, sustainable, and inclusive future. How do we eliminate gender disparities that can hold women back? How do we harness the full economic potential if it's talented women in the discussion that we want to focus on here? I'm happy to share that CII, in partnership with US Consulate Mumbai, did some groundwork in the form of a sample survey to understand what women think and feel about their career, work, employment, and workplaces. I think this survey's result must be very important for all of you to know. By analyzing the voices of a reasonable sample of working women, the survey received inputs on current workplace policies, got an insight on issues being faced by women, and what could be done to bridge the gap. Some key focus areas that came out of the survey are lack of awareness amongst employees on what constitutes workplace harassment, redressal, grievance mechanism. At CII, we have been consistently taking care of the programs of POSH and awareness for SMEs as well as corporates. We try to educate organizations about POSH and how you can make this entire workplace a very safe place to work. Only 40% of the respondents said that their company has a gender-inclusive workplace policy. In place, about 45% were not even sure if their organization had such a policy. A long wait, a long bridge to pass. Need to share the best practices and initiatives with the management and human resource leaders of the organization to address gender gaps that would be better attract and retain female staff. These are some of the survey results. Both India and US has a dynamic and vibrant private sector. And for today's session, we have representatives from both the countries who would be sharing their perspectives with us. Each one of them bring to the table their vast experience and will add a different dimension to the discussion. May I begin with inviting Ms. Tejaswini Karalkar to share her perspective with us. Thank you, Ms. Tejaswini. She's joining us virtually. Chirag, if you can just see whether she's there with us.
Yeah. Hi. Am I audible?
Okay. Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Tejas.
Thank you, Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much for those kind words. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the US Consulate, I'd really like to commend Akanksha Kumar and her team at CII on the launch of the She and SME Inclusive Future Speaker Series. CII has been a long-standing partner with us uh, in fact, throughout the mission, not only with the US Consulate Mumbai, for our shared commitment and aspiration to bring more women into the workforce. So recently, to cite an example, Consul General Mike Hankey delivered remarks at the CII Western Region, emerging women leader program, basically again underscoring Congen Mumbai's commitment to empowering women in the workplace. This was about a year ago. We got together with CII and devised a strategy, a two-pronged kind of a strategy to work on this issue and address this issue by first, as Monica rightly pointed out, through the survey, analyzing the factors that deter women from joining the workforce and dropping out. And the second part we are all here today for, which is the training of the personnel to devise workplace policies that are inclusive of women. So the endeavor here was to make the change top to bottom, so that we kind of sensitize and create that change from leadership at the management level, and which will then, that systemic change will percolate down. So I'm sure you all know this, and we have eminent speakers here who will talk more about it, that a diverse decision making leadership always sees a better financial output and performance. So without much ado, I would like to congratulate CII and the entire team for putting this program together. And we have some great speakers lined up, so I'm looking forward to listening to them. Thank you again, and best wishes for the program.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Tejaswini. I would request each speaker to address us for about 15 minutes starting from now. And we'll go in the order. We'll start with Ms. Dr. Hina, then Ruchika, Ms. Penny, Mr. Kaul, and then Ms. Lobo. So over to you, Dr. Shah. Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody, my friends on dais, and congratulations to CII. Somewhere they are remembering women and gender. So I'm happy to be here. And I would like to remind that every meeting should be having the gender aspect included in it. Not a single meeting of CII should be without gender. So that is the takeaway CII office has to consider it all. I was astonished to learn about the percentage of gender status of our country when we compare it the world. It's a shame. It's sad. We have tremendous ability. The world is looking at India, and when it comes to the status of women and gender, we are at this level. Why? The question is why? Do you think that we don't have equal opportunity? I think ye to lokshahi hai. Everybody has got the same opportunities, whether it is education, career, any opportunity you look at. No school said that girls are not allowed. No colleges said girls are not allowed. Then why? The question is why? Why we need to work on this, and why we need to have special inclusive policies for the SMEs. Why it is not a natural process. So that goes a long way to see that how the socialization pattern is happening in our country. In socialization pattern, I have prepared the breakfast and everything and said, "Bhai, tum kha pee lena." "Acha, itni jaldi ja rahi ho?" मैंने कहा, "हाँ, मैं जेंडर के बारे में बोलने जा रही हूँ." "हाँ, ठीक है, अच्छा बोलना." So, and I have no regret. I don't want to change my life. I'm enjoying being a wife. I'm enjoying being a mother. That is my greatest privilege, and that is my greatest pleasure because I'm being pampered very much. But let's go to the socialization pattern. That when we are young, हमारे माता पिता बोलते हैं, whatever work is there, the men, when I was young, my father said, my brothers will go out and play football. And my father said, तुम मम्मी को मदद करो, घर पे कोई आ रहा है. And the story is even same today. My brother will go out, play football and say, I was the leader, the leadership developed there. And where is my leadership? मैं salad काट रही हूँ. Now that has already conditioned in my mind that as a girl, I'm supposed to do this. There is nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. And no college, no school, nowhere anybody said, Hina, तुम्हें मैं 50 marks दे रहा हूँ क्योंकि तुम लड़की हो. All dependent on the capability of a person. Now the socialization pattern takes a big, big challenge in our country. And therefore we are 135th in our ranking system. That is where we have to work, whether it is corporate, SME, and development agencies. Whoever do it, we have to change the thought process. I would like to just share, because our topic today is to talk about inclusive future workshop and including gender in HR policies of SMEs. So I'll not go here and there, but I would like to say that when we talk about the policies, whether it is HR policy of an institution or HR policy of the country. HR means human resource development policy. When we go to that, we talk about it, all our government policies are HR policies to develop our country's human resource in area of education, health, industries, you name it. Now they have three kinds of policies, and any institution will have three kinds of policies. And that is regulatory, कि भाई ये institute ऐसे चलेगी, ये SME ऐसे चलेगा, ये सरकार ऐसे चलेगी, ये department ऐसे चलेगा. Distribute it. With that policy, you distribute. Credit दे रहे हो, कोई job दे रहे हो, कोई काम दे रहे हो, वगैरह वगैरह. And redistributive. Three kinds of policies are there here. HR officers are sitting. I would just like to ask you that, do you have these three kinds of policies in your organization? When you see these policies, भाई license लेने जाना है, तो हम भी line में ही खड़े रहते हैं. Men or women? Where is gender? And when I go there, stand, there is no toilet. I said, and they said, nahi karna hai mujhe. I'm talking on behalf of the women. I'm developing women entrepreneurs in the country and in 60, 70 developing countries. The model is working over there. And we have developed women into entrepreneurs from small, medium, and micro also, because rural and tribal areas. And it has been seen that they have to face the same challenges like a man. And there is nothing happening. No policies are there. Policies are there ki license mile. Scheme is there ki women ki scheme ye hai, girl child ki skill ye hai, ye iski scheme hai. But does that scheme change the behavior of a person? No. So when it comes to regulatory policy, no policies are for women. Check in HR department of SMEs. Do you have any special policies for women? That is one thing. Another thing is to see that when we see the policies, they are gender blind. School mein jana hai, padna sabko hai, free mil raha hai, but they are gender blind. Nobody says ki girls or boys ke liye hai. But you go to villages and see there are boys participants, girls have withdrawn from the education. So what kind of policy is this? These are the policies which are called gender blind development policies. And we all have to get together to change that to more for women, to facilitate women's entry easily. Just now we were talking that when we go out for our compliance, it is tough. It is very, very tough. And then sometimes they say, क्यों मैम 4 घंटे से बैठी हो, बच्चे घर नहीं आ रहे, आप क्यों यहाँ बैठे हो अभी तक? So that kind of environment we are talking about. And when it comes to policy, when it comes to equality policy in institution, more than often we have seen that so many people have come. We are doing a lot of corporate training and they said, हमारे यहाँ अब हम women को ज़्यादा बढ़ाने वाले हैं, ज़्यादा number of women will be more. Now that is not equality. That is not equality. Now 30% of reservation has been given by the government in Panchayati Raj for the last 21 years. 30% women panchayat will be there, but you go to village, I don't know how many of you are gone, but you go to village and we go and see the panchayat. अच्छा, उसका husband बोलेगा मेरे से बात करो, वो तो खाना बना रही है. Now 30% reservation has already been given, but where is the women empowerment taking place? They are not being able to do because socialization condition. They cannot leave their house and go out and work. That has to be addressed. Similarly, now we have gone up to legislature. Now 30% of reservation in MPs and all, and you will see that they are not capable to handle it. So when it comes to the gender policy development in SME, it's been said that if you take women, yes, your employee, the organization can benefit of gender equality in workplace, increases business performance, enhancing innovation, better workplace. But are women innovative? Are women innovative? Just tell me, anybody. Are we innovative? Okay, very nice. But I have been told when I was young, when I was to I wanted to do something new, my father said, nahi padho. Koi problem ka to main hu na. When I got married, I was telling my husband, I want to start my factory. He said, क्यों? मैं हूं ना. तुम्हें क्या करना है फैक्ट्री शुरू करके? मैंने किया तेरे घर के सामने, मैं भी एक फैक्ट्री लगाऊंगी, and I put up, but with a lot of fights, emotional, psychological, and so on. And third, when they grow, children say, "Are mummy, छोड़ो ना, मैं हूं ना." So we are used to living with मैं हूं ना. मेरी गाड़ी में पंक्चर होता था तो I'll come home and give the चाबी to my husband. तुम हो ना, चार गाड़ी ठीक कर दो. Now that kind of environment women are living with. We have to look into it when we are developing our policies in our SMEs. I would just like to, I'll take 5 minutes more. I would like to share with you because I'm involved in the gender and development policies for the world with World Bank since 70s. Interestingly, the policies came from the World Bank. World Bank said कि भाई women gender policies honi chahiye. So initially the gender development policy, because ultimately it is the development, it is the government which decides the policies, and then the implementation through the SMEs, through the institution, through the organization takes place. So I was one of the developer of those policies, and it has initiated, and it has been said, we did the study and we found women, bechari, they don't have competences to do anything on their own because they are dependent on their family. As I said, my hona, I was dependent on my father, then my husband, and then my children. Now, then came the policy which was called the welfare-oriented policy. Welfare orientation. And that welfare orientation policy approach was moved towards the world, from US to China to Japan, all over. The government said, "Sare gender development program karo. जाइए, सारे women को बोलो, अब ये हाथ में बेलन है, ये हाथ में पेन लो, ये हाथ में झाड़ू है, ये हाथ में फोन लो, ये हाथ में." And it had been a mad thing. You won't believe. There was a time when men will say, "Gender के लिए आओ, नहीं आओ यहाँ पे." They were frightened कि आएंगे तो बेलन वेलन के बदले पेन और पेंसिल पकड़ाएंगे. It went like that all over the world. And it was realized, the idea was to have the welfare orientation with different analysis of women's situation, conventional development practices to be changed. Conventional practices to be changed. And there we need a man. We cannot change alone. And that is where the family's gender development came in. And this results failed. Government decided 25,000 rupees women ko de dijiye, they will start their business under Dwakra. IRDP project came, integrated rural development. They gave 10,000 rupees to women, start your business. Nothing happened. Even today, those businesses are not working. So empowerment does not happen. And therefore that policy failed. And in 70s, new policy came with the World Bank again. And we implemented these policies in Asian, African, and Caribbean countries, including America, Latin America, where I worked. And that was the equity and equality approach, which today we are talking about achieving equality. When it came to equality, it was realized that women, in the research, it's realized that women's significant contribution in economic sector through as an entrepreneur as well as workers. Development strategies of women for equity and equality worked very well. Women proved that if you help them to develop the capability, they can work. But again, it did not work. In the end of 80s, there were workshops and seminars, and there was a lot of concern about the society. By equality में men women को साथ में कैसे रखे, इनको 5,000 देते हैं, इनको 10,000 देते हैं, इनको तो आता नहीं है, ये तो ऑफिस में आके भी घर की बातें करती हैं, उनको हम कैसे 10,000 रुपये दे दें. Now we understood that our social conditioning has gone into the offices also. Day before yesterday, I was one of the government offices in the education department. I was sitting out, the canteens were full of women employees because their reservation is for 30% women. And they were all talking, canteen lavi che? Acha, ek ghante tak canteen mein baithi thi ye sari mahilaएं. None of them were on the table. Now, I'm concerned about it in our SME also. SME is much better because we are looking at the profits. So, but we need to address that. And in that equality, feminism came in. कि मैं भी हूँ, मैं भी आपके साथ सिगरेट पीऊंगी, यहाँ जाऊंगी. And Indian socialization pattern did not accept that. And that became very, very difficult. Here also, I would so many times say that girls, they say, शादी नहीं करनी है, नहीं तो मेरा promotion का scope चला जाएगा. If you are an entrepreneur, you are a master, but otherwise. So in SMEs, we need to look into that. So this also failed. By 90s, when we opened our economy, when Manmohan Singh opened the economy, he suggested go for the efficiency effectiveness approach. And there came all these women who became efficient and effective in their performance, and results started coming in. And now we all know, we are all talking about the women empowering approach. And I'm sure that women empowering approach says that you mobilize the right kind of women, select the right kind of women based on gender activity. There are selection tools available to HR department to find out what kind of women are performance oriented, what kind of women are achievement oriented, what kind of women are power oriented, what kind of women are affiliation oriented. And in our society, we have been said that women को achievement में क्यों जाना है? मेरा achievement मेरे सपनों में तो ऐसा था कि एक अच्छा पैसे वाला लड़का मिले, and I'm very happy about it. And even today, I'm not talking about people here, but if we talk about the majority of our country, women, and we are talking about the policy development for the SMEs, for women to come and work, we need to look into it that their achievement, motivation to achieve somewhere changes, and that should be included in the education system in the school, so that women start achieving their own products, their own dreams. And last but not the least, if we develop women, select, and all HR department develop the entrepreneurial managerial ability in women, no woman will leave your organization and go. It's not they are looking at lectin room chahiye, ye chahiye. No, we are not looking at that. We need to teach problem solving ability in our homes, in our society, in our school. We don't teach. अगर छोटा बच्चा पूछता है मम्मी ये क्या है, लाइट है, क्यों है? क्योंकि बाहर अंधेरा है। बाहर अंधेरा क्यों है? क्योंकि सूरज डूब गया। क्यों डूब गया? अरे मेरा सर नहीं खा, तू जा अपने पापा से पूछ। And when he or she goes to papa says, हाँ वो अंधेरा है ये, अरे मेरा सर क्यों खा रहे हो, मम्मी से पूछ। बच्चा कहता है मम्मी को तो पूछ लिया, तो मम्मी ने बोला टीचर से पूछ। टीचर के पास गए, टीचर may know why this light is there. Teacher says, finger on the lips, nobody will talk. And we have taught the child, don't ask question, don't get information. It's not your job. And that is where women are suffering. I would just like to say, encourage women to be women and to let them be women and still perform better. So as HR departments, to increase the women's participant inclusion in the policy, only policy will not work, because we have miserably failed in inclusion of policies in our country. It's time we all rise, all of us, not only women will rise, but men also need to rise to be able to understand women, and social aspects should be definitely considered. And that has got nothing to do with it. But let me tell you, most of the women, men are from Mars, women are from. So women are emotional and men are rational. Contrast itna hai. Now, how do you make men emotional and women rational? Somewhere we have to meet. And that is where our success will be there. But let us, all of us, 50 people are here, and let all of us work on it and make sure कि 5 साल के बाद हमारा number 135 तो नहीं ही होना चाहिए. And for that matter, it is not I only develop. For that matter, we all need to focus on that. All institutions need to focus on that. And that is the only way out. I wish you all the best for today's workshop. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I guess I'll sit here and I would rather want to interact. First of all, thank you so much for having me here, and huge congratulations to CII and all the guests here. It is a pleasure to be part of this distinguished panel, as well as meeting you all the distinguished guests here. I do want to say that I'm really not an SME I'm not a subject matter expert for SMEs. So I really wanted to make this interactive and talk to you all, and probably share a little bit of best practices that I can bring from organizations I've worked with. I think I want to start where ma'am just finished, Dr. Hina just finished. Personally, I believe a lot in gender partnership. And that's something that I've been working on. I have, around 16 years of my career working with human resources throughout. I think last 7.5 years, I've been working into EDI, which is Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. And throughout my career, I felt that in the current scenario, most organizations have been working towards advancing women, right? And let's just go back and see. I believe it's been, 2 decades? We have a better representation, if I may not call a better representation of women in the workforce. But I really wanted to ask from an SME point of view, how much do you feel we have succeeded? If you have to rate it on, let's say, a 1 to 10, how would you want to rate it? Anybody? 3 or a 4. And what do you feel are the derailers? Derailers. Yeah.
Is in complete contradiction to the career that you could possibly have. So when you're at the peak of your career, when you can actually take that big leap, you have to actually step out of the race for some time, for some women, and for others, it may be the end of the road. So that becomes a huge, one of those,
Exactly.
key elements to why women derail in their careers.
Okay,
So
thank
I
you.
leave the, I can talk more, but I think it should be about
No,
open
that's fine.
discussion.
Thank you so much. So we'll hear from others
Yes,
also. So,
thank you.
but I take your point is life changes as one of the pointers. Anybody else? Anyone? Okay, never mind. So I'll probably pick on what you just spoke. Thank you so much for that hint. I think what I wanted to say, absolutely the right thing that, number one, I think most organizations are currently approaching women representation from the point of view of buy, and it's a very HR terminology saying that let's buy talent available in the market. Okay. Now, had it been, any other field we were talking about, it was not a gendered term we were talking about, we would have been really just going out and saying that, we have so many shapes or we have so many sizes and, this is the kind of shape available in my talent market. If we were really not talking gender dynamics, but we would have said that, okay, these shapes are not there and we really need to build these, for the need of our organization. Now, because we are talking gender and we are saying that, we want to have a certain representation in our organization, let's try further having specific policies to hire women or a particular gender. The thing is that if women have entered from the last 2 decades, obviously there is a gap, right? I think I have worked for consulting organizations. I have worked with capability centers in telecom consulting. I am currently working for an aerospace organization. I have before this worked with Commonwealth, which was a purely, international trade sort of an organization, a government organization. The biggest challenge I see lies in the fact that you don't have the pipeline for senior roles, right? So we still have largest number of entrants in junior level roles, but are women really able to make it to the top? That's where most of us struggle. And absolutely what she explained, that I believe the problem is that women enter, but are they able to really reach it to the top? One of the things is the way we see life changes, events are derailers. Most of us have been, I think, I was looking at the UNDP report yesterday on India and MSMEs, and most of the work the United Nations have been working on are introducing more policies for having higher representation for women and having what we call famously leadership programs for women. Now, my question here is that, yes, that is a need, probably for some women. I mean, as Dr. Hina just mentioned, that let women be, we all have different styles of management. We all have different styles of leadership. But is that one way going to work for everyone? I guess the question is that if we really want them to be able to, or if we want each other to be able to move forward, do we have a cookie cutter approach? Do we have an individualistic approach? I would just say that, I was reading and there's a lot of work and a lot of power with the assemblies that you all hold in terms of making this change happen. I just feel that the lens has to be slightly different in the sense of rather than having one way to further women, then having, one way of really looking at each and every individual. And just giving an example from what we are working on currently. So day before yesterday, we were having a conversation on, we have a pillar of ours called Women at Boeing India. And we were working around, what do we really need to do going forward? So there are a few things that we have already been doing. We, of course, have something called as Mission 30 because aviation has some 12% women representation today. So from an industry point of view, we have to and we want to contribute. So we do want to, and we currently have around 27% women with us. But yes, again, our problem also is in the middle management to senior management layer. I think Boeing India has around 27% women at the top, but middle management is something we are struggling. So we were having a conversation and a lot of inputs came around having a mentorship program. I believe most women across the globe are over-mentored. And I'm really not somebody who's in for a mentorship program. I feel what we discussed is, there are very less takers to really come and sponsor a woman there are many people, many leaders who are sitting at a power position who are ready to give you that mentorship. But there are very few allies who are ready to come and really give you that sponsorship and be there for you and talk for you. So that's the change I think is needed. So what we discussed finally was that let's not really launch a mentorship program. Let's launch a cross-functional panel where we will sit and discuss on, let's say, our top, critical hires or critical talented people, and have an IDP, which is an individual development plan for them. And those who need mentorship will look for mentorship, but those who don't need mentorship, rather want, let's say, a position outside India, will look for that for them. So I feel that's what we want to change. The other thing is, I really want to talk a little bit about my own story. I come from a background, my mother has always been working, both my parents have been doctors. So, through in and throughout, I always saw them as equal partners. I probably didn't see that across, in my friend circle or so, and I felt that women struggle with that. But that has been my privilege, that has been my privilege because I saw that. So I naturally had that. I've been lucky to have, currently I live in a family where my mother, unfortunately my father passed away sometime, so I'm in a family setup where my mother lives with me and my in-laws stay with me. My husband's currently in Africa, so I'm working and I have a very, I think, a hectic traveling job. A lot of times people ask me this, how do you manage? I feel it is a lot of internal fight that we all go through. And the biggest hesitation to really differentiate comes internally. So I've gone through that journey. I literally live out of that one suitcase there. But I think it was my tough decision. I felt that I want to reach and I want to do this for myself. The moment I told this to myself and my irrelevant few, I had the support. Yes, and I think this is something that I talk a lot to a lot of people whenever I'm doing career conversations, etc. That first have that internal win, that what do you want for yourself, not for anybody else? What do you want for yourself? And start demanding. I'm doing my PhD in self-advocacy for women. And I think it's very important for us to be assertive and being able to position what we want very positively. There's nothing wrong in asking for it. And I feel hence why to give that power to anybody else. Unless I'm able to put what I want for myself, I'll never be able to achieve it. And that goes for any gender, right? I think the fight not anymore is just about women. The fight is about, of course, non-binaries and everybody. So I feel we have furthered a lot, and I refer to India as well. We furthered a lot in this conversation. Everybody acknowledges the gender inequities that exist. And to me, I think it's not going to be an approach anymore that will work where we start talking about just advancing women, because that's not the problem. I think the problem is about the gender inequity that exists in the society, whether it's towards women, whether it's towards men, or it's towards non-binaries. And hence, I feel that the need of the hour is actually to start talking about how can we utilize the power of the group, the strength of each other, and how can we really support each other. So honestly, that's where we are trying to work on at Boeing, at least. And wherever I've seen that approach being utilized, I've seen huge success stories. So I want to leave with that, leave you all with that thought, and happy if anybody wants to share any perspective on it. Yes.
Hi, my name is Purvi, and I had been working with lot many corporates. I had a stint of around 11 to 12 years with Reliance Industries. And when Isha Ambani was on the board, when she introduced a very nice HR policy, and just wanted to add on to it what ma'am said and what you said. She introduced that all the head of the department in the department, if you have a female employee, then the head of the department has to mentor her, has to take care of her and help her to scale in her career. They were given 1 year for their performance, and the performance of the head of the department will be based on the performance of that candidate who is performing, whom he is mentoring. If she performs very well, then accordingly, the head of the department will be given the rating. So it was a very nice policy that was introduced. So I think if this could be a kind of an inclusion in the HR policies for the female staff working in the corporates. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Puri, for sharing that. And I can vouch for it. It does work when you have, KPIs around development rather than representation. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. You want me to elaborate on that? Please, can you just frame your question a bit
Was it
more?
audible or when? I think it was audible.
That's
You hear
okay.
the question? No.
Just help me understand what would you want to know more?
See, inclusive in a broader term.
Yeah.
Of including not only the woman.
Yeah.
But the third gender as well.
Okay, sure. See, I think what I'm trying to say is, with thankfully, we have reached a stage where we're having this conversation today. I believe we were not there, not really far off, but probably 2 years back or so. I think, as I said, people are people, and I'm somebody who does not want to really have an approach of a gendered mindset. So I think, why is it that we really need to have this conversation? And it's not just about gender. We were in the morning, we were talking about people with disabilities or, people with different socioeconomic backgrounds. I think the way our structure, our education system and our structures have been made, I mean, probably in the system we today also have started talking about caste. I think Western countries are talking about caste now, because access to education has been a problem, right, for a lot of people. And that's where I believe for non-binaries also it has been challenging. So this year we participated, I'm just giving an example. This year we participated in a job fair specifically for Pride community members. And I found that there were a lot of people from the current generation, if I may call the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, who were comfortable to be there and participate. We found very limited experienced people. Interestingly, one or two who we interviewed were from organizations who really go out and talk about it. So that's how relevant it is to talk about this subject, because you need to build that safe space and that psychological safety for people to be able to be themselves, just be themselves. That's the tough part. As far as inclusion for anybody is considered, I think it starts with an I, and I would just say that I is not from who's sitting on the other side, but I. So a lot of self-reflection first. We did talk a lot about, we've been talking about women, we're talking about non-binaries, but I think the question is that I think into day-to-day decision-making that we do, the conditioning that we have been, unfortunately, we just exclude people around us. So the moment we start questioning ourselves, the moment we start fighting our heuristic decision-making process, I believe it starts happening. You don't really need to put an extra effort, but the extra effort has to be to reach a level where your unconscious bias converts into an unconscious inclusion. That effort is something that we have to put. I hope that helps. If there's any particular question on a policy bit, I'd love to take up. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I moved into question answer.
That's fine. Ultimately, we'll reach there. So we have this thing.
It's working. So good morning, everyone. It is my privilege to be here and share the stage with all the dignitaries, and I'm very thankful for having such a wonderful audience. I think a lot of questions in mind, and I would like to connect from there. I would like to start with one very interesting question, and I'm not looking for answer. I want all of you to just reflect, because I think two of the speakers, they have given a lot of thoughts, and I've started reflecting on it, and that is helping me to decode certain information. So let's start. So I want all of you to please close your eyes and just imagine your dining table. I want you to imagine the head of the position over there, who is sitting head of the position in the dining during the, your lunch or maybe dinner, and who is helping you to serve things when you're eating things. I want you to open your eyes, and I want you to just, if you are comfortable and if you would like to share, how many of you have visualized that the women is heading the dining table? Just raise your hand. And you should feel fortunate enough. I would definitely make it very clear, because whenever I have asked this question, I've always seen that most of the families, all these things are taken by the different gender, not the women. So that is one reflection. The second part of it, position matters. How many of you agree? All? And here also, even the system position is helping us to differentiate. So it is very important, even in the smallest of the conversation at home, how we are sitting, even in the corporate affairs, how we are sitting. It is a differentiator. Like I was observing sitting there, I'm sitting here, few of you are sitting here. It means few of the women are aspiring to be here. Am I making sense to all of you? So it's a very interesting game that we are going through. Your aspiration is to come here. My aspiration is to go somewhere else. And position is helping us to visualize things. And are we using our visualization power? I mean, this is for everyone. I'm not differentiating whether I'm coming from a big setup of manufacturing, or we are operating in a small industry, or small family, big family. How you are looking at things around you. It could be women, it could be man, it could be any gender. So even the topic today is she. We are not talking about all genders. Are we inclusive? Question to all of us. Are we inclusive? And when I followed the CII page, I also saw a lot of observation in terms of, I've just recently completed my study in CDP, certification in the diversity program. And these are the few things that I have started reflecting, and I want all of you to be reflective. The very important thing is what kind of nomenclature that we are using in day to day. And this is for all of us in terms of manpower. Training man days. So even the small nomenclature, but we are not inclusive. The kind of auto-generated email that I get from any system, I always get, dear sir. These are the reality, and these are the base point for all of us to start reflecting on it. How many of us are saying that, hey, I'm not comfortable. I'm also there in the system. Are you watching me? Are you hearing me? Are you noticing my presence? So I want all the participants, you are equally intelligent. I'm not saying that the wisdom is this side, everywhere. And we just need to catch it, put it back in the system, and let's make it work for all of us. Because all of us are so smart, we observe, but at times, chodo na yaar, is pe kaun panga lega? I just don't want to get into that. So I want to have that attitude. Can I get into this? Can I help this system? Can I be more vigilant for the things happening around me? Can I just register a point? Sorry, the mail is also reaching to the women colleagues. Would you like to correct this? And I'm not sure, but how many of us are even, I want all of you to study why we should not use the female word. I have seen CII somewhere, they have put up this word, but I'm sure the experts sitting here, they understand. And this is one more study point for all of you. You can follow on LinkedIn why we should not use it. And we should be more in terms of women and men instead of female and male. So that's one more piece of information that I would like to all of you to leave with. There are certain data study point available, though I have come with a presentation, but I thought after listening two of our very great speaker, I thought let's have some conversation around it. So there are three important data sources which all of you can study on your own time. I'll just give the summary of it. The one coming from McKinsey, that is a 2020 study. The second coming from WEF 2019. These are the articles I want all of you to study to deep dive. The third is DNI survey BCG 2016 report. So these are the three reports that I'm referring right now. And the interesting facts coming out from the research is business with more women in their executive teams is likely to financially outperform compared to industry median. I hope I'm making sense to all of you. The second important point is corporate that have gender diversity on their executive teams were more competitive and 21% more likely to experience above average profitability. You know why I'm stating these figures and information? Because if you're part of HR, how many of you are part of HR or policy making, decision making? The first question that most of the time we encounter is, what is in it for me as a business? This is the first question. The moment you will go with the policy, I'm also part of HR. So this is one fundamental question. What is in it for me? What as a business I'm going to get if I employ or if I come up with these sort of policies around? So that is the second fact that I shared. The third is corporation that embrace gender diversity also had a 27% likelihood of outperforming their peers on long-term value creation. So even if you have, gender diversity in the team, the peers would perform better because you are creating that kind of environment. It would help everyone to give their best. So that is the third statement. The fourth statement I'm connecting with Dr. Hina because I think she asked very interesting question that are we innovative? Correct. So, and the study says innovation in the organization jumped once gender diversity exceeds 20%. So I think these are the facts and figures when you are talking to your leadership team or the business would definitely help. And I recommend to go deep dive for all these reports so that you can also help with the logic, because everything first logic should be there, and then I think we'll be able to, help the industry. So now moving forward, I have certain data points which I would like to talk about in terms of, I think interesting question from the audience came up that the biological clock and our career, somewhere it is not helping us. So what kind of policies would help? I'm from Larsen and Toubro, and I have seen that, I think, ma'am, you also connected with the rating and all. So I would say that at L&T, we have come up with a policy. Suppose you are on a maternity leave, so your performance rating would not be impacted. Last 3 years of average would be taken as a base, and that would be followed. So I think when you're formulating certain policies, all these factors, you can put it and say, this is a biological break. After that, the person is going to resume again. So this is one thing that I can suggest. The second is a buddy scheme. Even in my team right now, one person, she was in mat leave. Yesterday only she resumed, and we provided buddy to her. So whatever is happening in the office, formally she will get the information. And we have established a channel for it. It's not kahi suni baate. Formally from the team, one person should be available with her if she needs any information. And whatever update is happening, org structure change or any project that we have taken up, what is the progress on the project, what she is going through. Because when the person is on ML maternity leave, the person would be also going through a lot of things. So that also, so this is one more thing that I thought that it would really help. Assign somebody to the person. I really feel that, when Ruchika said mentorship, so I agree that we should have that sort of mentors who would allow you to think out of the box. in terms of what exactly the kind of help that you're looking for. Because many times when we are interacting with women colleagues, I have seen that, we are going through a lot of dilemma. ये करना चाहिए, ये नहीं करना चाहिए. And at that juncture, we need someone. I am there. Don't worry. Take a step. I'm standing there. I'm with you. So that's a sort of support system. If you are able to establish in the system, I'm sure that would really help. I have also seen a lot of companies coming up with the flexible working hours. So that also is one option that is available. We can think in that direction. In L&T, there are so many things that, we are supporting with in terms of, we have segmented the entire intervention in terms of induct, engage, develop, and enable. So in induct, we have taken certain targets in terms of recruitment targets, women drive, how we can accommodate. The second, career opportunity when we are taking break, how we can make it more smooth. So that sort of target that we have taken up. We are also promoting women-led and team members, women crew, sort of everybody women. So that sort of also we are trying. So this is one more suggestion, if that is possible in the segment where you are working. So that also can be part of it. So that we call second career opportunities. In engage section, we are doing stay, say, and strive. So in that, we are organizing a lot of connect with the leadership team, Bachit session. These are very interesting sessions because I have witnessed what we do in the Bachit session. We invite women colleagues. We don't speak. We are just observers sitting there in one corner. And what they talk, we observe and pick up the points, the gray area, the pain points, and then we work on it. We don't have any agenda. We don't share any agenda. We tell them, come and sit and have a cup of coffee with us and talk. I'm just there, just watching you, listening you, experiencing you. And from there, we pick up the pain points. So it's a free flow, and that's really interesting session if you would like to explore it. We also do a lot of leadership program, but fortunately, our leadership programs are really different in terms of it would help you to connect with your trigger point, your own trigger points. Because when I started this journey, my leadership program, I realized that first of all, the question came, why we need a separate leadership program? Why we need separate leadership program? It could be combination of both men and women, and both of us sitting together, we can go through the leadership program. So my trigger started from there, why I need a separate, leadership program. But then slowly and gradually I decoded the way I operate, the way different individuals are operating. My operating mechanisms are different. My coping up mechanisms are different. Suppose I am very angry, I will be silent. The other person may be shouting. So what is our operating mechanism? The trainer would make you, all these things available to you, understand your operating mechanism, and then try to cope up. You'll not be able to cope up if if you're just looking at other person, acha, ye gana sunta hai, ye repair ho jata hai, mera aisa nahi ho raha hai. I'm not able to cope up. I need something else. I need cooking. If I'm really stressed out, I go in the kitchen and I start cooking. I start chopping things, and then slowly and gradually it is helping me to be myself. And then once my dish is ready and everybody's eating happily, I'm relaxed. So find out your way of relaxing, and maybe in your segment, wherever you are working, create interest group. Create interest group like painting. What it could be anything, dancing, cycling, marathon. It could be anything. Just understand what is helping our people and create those interest group and just rejuvenate. Ask people to join, come, be part of it. And that would help. So these are certain pointers. And yeah, there are certain things that we are doing. One is reimbursement that we are doing for women colleagues. If they are staying back, if they are using any facility, we are reimbursing that. We're also providing them ergonomical chairs so that whenever they are going through, the periods, So that we have also created a wellness room because we realize that I would give my own example. Suppose I'm not well, I'm sick, I will take off. I would say, sorry, I'm not able to join the office. But I have observed that after the wellness room, I just need 30-minute nap and I'm ready to perform 6 hours. So that is helping me. It's not somebody will go in the wellness room, take rest of 6 hours, and then the wellness rooms are not meant for that. The wellness rooms are meant you are able to perform, but during some time you need some relaxation. You just want to be yourself. If you're going through periods, so you need breaks, so you can take break and you can be part of the system again. So these are the facilities available. And we have also come up with further education policies. So suppose if you are interested, if you want to be part of, or if you want to learn more, you can go for it. We have also come up with sabbatical. So starting from 1 month, whatever need that you have, we have seen that the organizations are supporting the sabbatical so that you can resume the duty, and it would really help. So we also have the childcare facility at the premise. I think SMEs, if you're looking for, so first you have to come up with the infrastructure. The infrastructure is must. So before you plan, suppose I also heard that we are also thinking for the PWD. So if at all, if you are thinking in that lane, we need to make our infrastructure ready. So this is one more observation would like to share with all of you, that how many of you have seen most of the washrooms I have seen, if you have a small kid, you don't have that facility to put the kid. And, for a women colleagues, I've seen struggling. I have struggled a lot. So I'm sure all of you might have experienced. And are we coming up with those sort of facilities? So when you plan to hire more women colleagues, are you making the infrastructure ready? We have also created a checklist in terms of, suppose we are hiring a woman or you are sending any women to any location. So we have come up with a checklist for the seniors to follow. It could comprise of all the necessary arrangements. Suppose one woman is going for the site for 3 months. So accommodation, stay arrangement, washroom arrangement, what are the things it would be very necessary. So the checklist, once it is green, then we say now you can send. So are we making the basic facility ready for the deputation? So these are the certain points, and I welcome questions. I think yes.
For women employees to work in a much more comfortable and convenient manner. So there are 2 questions I have. One is, you talked about the wellness scheme or whatever, the wellness facility, the sabbatical opportunity, and the further education. Is it available only for women or also for the male? Is it inclusive? Inclusive?
Inclusive.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Now you talked about the checklist thing. If you're sending somebody, a woman, to another location, or she has to travel, I'm sure there'll be checklists for that as well. But what about the mindset of the colleagues? A manager, if he has a senior manager, if he has to send a woman colleague or junior to an outskirts or an offshore location and has to follow this mandatory checklist, they'd rather say, अरे यार क्या मतलब इतनी झंझट कौन लेगा, इससे अच्छा तो मैं राजेश को भेज देता हूँ. And this is actually what is happening within organizations. I have heard this from male colleagues and male clients. इतना झंझट नहीं लेने का. Marketing में जिसको sorry, sale marketing में बंदी ले लो. Sorry, I'm using that terminology. But let's not have a woman in the sales function. Field पे कैसे जाएगी, उसके साथ 2 आदमी और लगाने पड़ेंगे. So what is L&T? And I know I appreciate L&T's efforts because it's one of the most progressive organizations in India when it comes to building inclusive culture. But what are we doing to change the mindset and sensitize our male colleagues to make the workplaces more inclusive? So that's my question for L&T.
What's her name?
Yogita Ahuja.
Wonderful question, Yogita. I think I still remember sitting there asking this question. And right now I am here. I would definitely love to answer. I think I have one more question. I would combine it. Yeah.
Just to add on what she said, in many corporates, in many firms, I have seen that, women in leadership roles are expected to be in a certain size and shape and also of certain color. Then
Okay.
only, is the first go to enter into any corporate or any big firm. It's a mindset. That is what nobody would say on the face, but definitely as a women, we do experience that, that at a certain, we are expected to be in a certain shape and sizes if you want to really scale. They don't, this talent is the second part, but this is the first part that everybody notices. So how about talent, how they are taking it forward?
Okay. I really, okay. One more question. Wow. I'm sorry, I'm taking more time, I believe.
So I would just like to add to her question because I also come from industry which is all about machine making and everything. And
Okay.
other employees which we have, it's like 70%, 60 to 70% is like people who are from the Indian roots, like the cultural roots, like jaise ki, the men from UP, Bihar, and places. So to mingle, make our or even office staff में जो female होती है हमारे यहाँ, तो उनको भी if they want to work with the people from the workspace, then it's kind of a challenge for us as managers also to make them coexist in the organization. So how can we work on that?
So I would start with one statement. Sorry, I'll be using Hindi for it, but then I'll be connecting. Yeah, I should not be. So thank you for allowing me. सदियों से चली आई हुई प्रथा मिनटों में तो चेंज नहीं कर सकते. Agree? All of you agree with that? सदियों से चली आई हुई कुछ भी प्रथा, mindset, we can't change in 1 minute, 1 second, 1 day, fortnight. It is not going to happen. All of us sitting here, few audience, I'm sure attending from the YouTube, because I've started getting the feedback from WhatsApp. You are live and we are watching you. So I'm sure the audience watching on YouTube also, and all of us sitting here, slowly and gradually, we are shifting the gears. We are changing the gears, and it would happen. We should believe that we will be able to make those changes. I will start from my home, and you slowly and gradually will be able to see in corporates. Because I started the conversation from the dining table. If you notice, everything you will be able to connect with your dining table discussions. Who is taking the lead? Who is asking you? Pause, take a pause. Let him complete. How the discussion and deliberations are happening. Who is guiding you? Are you guiding someone? So leadership is coming from where? From the dining table. What my kid is observing, what they are observing, what I am learning, why I'm standing here. And the interesting thing, mindset, we are trying to change in corporate. We are doing a lot of campaign on cultural transformation. We are doing a lot of workshops on unconscious biases that we hold. And honestly, I can take you through one story, and I want you to, if that is allowed, if we have time, or maybe later part. I'm not sure, do we have time? Behind the schedule. So I'll not take that, but maybe whenever we would have, yeah, we will take it during the Q&A, so that I'll ask you to just visualize, and you will realize that even I hold a lot of biases. It's not only the other person, everybody in the system sitting here, all of us, we have our own biases, we have our likes, we have our dislikes. So we operate from that model. And I think shortly we will experience that. Thank you very much. Okay, one more question. Sorry.
Two things I would like to say. Number one, do kindly write a newspaper article on what you said, because there are all actionable points, and the industry at large should be aware about it.
Sure.
unless it is very confidential that it is L&T, proprietary or anything, intellectual property.
No,
Right,
suggestions would come
yeah.
from, definitely it can come from me. And in fact, the entire team at our place, they are working on it. And there are a lot of external benchmarking also we are doing with different industries. So there are a lot of things available.
Just
But
whatever you have said today, maybe you can include something more, but whatever you have
sure,
said today,
definitely.
that is one. Number two, infrastructure company like L&T, you must be already doing it, but if you are not doing it, I may like to suggest a location audit.
Location audit, yes.
Location audit. I mean, so that the manager doesn't have to see the green ticks. It is already declared in advance that it is accessible by the handicapped, that it is woman friendly, and it can be easily done. It is not something, but there are, yes, some certain soft issues which need to be green ticked. That will
Understood.
be there. But if that green tick is already there, then the manager has not to think whether I can send a lady employee there or not,
Understood.
Yeah, thank you.
Very valid point. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the best thing to happen, only time when I didn't have to introduce myself because diversity candidate, sabko pata hai Ashish wahi hai. Fanny, by the way, making food, cooking is my pressure point. And that is why, my wife keeps me in pressure because, you have a constant person to cook food. Thank you so much, each one of you who's been patiently listening to all of us. My name is Ashish. I represent SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management. We're a global firm present in almost 168 countries, been in India for the last 20 plus years. We are a policy advocacy firm, anything to do with work, worker, and the workplace. You would find SHRM research and consulting at the core of it. Right from COVID norms that came into your place to, say, the hybrid working models that you guys have now. Yeah, absolutely everything that, we were responsible for. Can I just blank it out for a minute because everybody's looking at that? Can you just blank it out for a minute? Just blank it out. So, when you've got so many stalwarts already talked about everything, there's honestly nothing left now. So that puts me further into a, spot. But something that stood out for me, and I think is very practical at the end of the day when we talk about D&I. And I've been saying this to Dr. Shah almost thrice to say, what you said was very powerful. And I was going to say this is the fourth time, and then I thought she would be like, shut up. Tum bahut zyada makhan laga rahe ho. But here is something very fundamental, and I want each one of you to think about it. And of course, don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of my gyan, but there's a research that I want to share with you. There's something very fundamental about the whole initiative and the way it is being done and the way it is carried out in certain organizations to how you would do it in SMEs and to how do it outside in a societal form. I think what you said, very powerful. See, all that we are trying to do is to set up a set of policies, but they miss something very basic, the non-development part of it. Now, I often talk about it and I quote and joke about it to say it is not DEI. And men like to hear this joke much better than females, but it's not DEI, it should be IED, not the implosive explosive, the device, not that bomb. But why should be called as IED? Think about it. In a country like India, do you really think diversity is a challenge? Do you really, really think diversity is a challenge? Right? I'll have a bill in the parliament and now you would see 30% of women there. 21 years of Panchayati Raj and I'm sure you all saw Panchayat on Amazon, how a woman, punch is actually been. And I live in a Gurgaon, so you understand where I come from, right? I still see Panch Pradhan and, Panch something. The husband has got a name now as well, But until you don't create inclusivity, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that our country faces, not only at the workplace, not only at the dining table, Penny, I think it's everywhere. We by nature are very diverse, but the whole concept of inclusivity is so alien and so difficult. And it's almost like lots of hundreds of years, and it's not going to go so that easily. Therefore, yes, sir, we can come up with a lot of policies, and the government is coming up. We at SHRM devise a lot of these policies, trust me. And a lot of them make it to the labor law, a lot of them make it to the corporate governance. But then I meet females or a woman who colleagues at work, and they'll tell you horror stories after horror stories of what they have to go through work. I meet a lot of CEOs and CHROs, who would call us up to say, we want to do a D&I initiative. And I often get into the bad books of them to say, okay, sir, aapka business sab sahi chal raha hai. The last quarter was amazing. Share prices have gone up. You're doing really profitable. But why do you want to do this? And the first question back is that, why would you even ask? Take up the business and get it executed. But if you push for it, if you push the pedal, trust me, it'll come down to three things. I'm a global company. Global se kar rahe hain, to isliye hame bhi karna hai. Second is, L&D budget hai yaar, kar do. Third is, see, everybody else in the market is doing it. And then, therefore, it is it's the politically correct statement to make. Now, if you start that initiative with that, thank you so much. Kya baat kar rahe hum? Kaun sa D&I ki baat kar rahe hain? Therefore, so if I can have the slides back now. So there is what I personally, and I love to call it as IED. Because I think, IED is much more inclusive. It talks about, see, we've for a lot of time picked up concepts from the West, copy pasted them on India. And I think this is another one where we need to be aware of what we're trying to do it in India. And would this work, sir? It would? Okay, oh yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So make it broad, make it bigger. That's what the whole concept of calling it IEDs. I know it's like just reversing DI to ID. Now, I want to take you through a couple of slides on research, which will help you to understand, why am I hell-bent on calling it IED? And here is, why I would want to, if you could just move the slide, please. I think I moved it a little bit faster. Yeah. So we did a research, a big one. And when we are doing this research, we know that organizations, you go and tell them that you will be rated on this. What are they going to say? They're going to say, like all employee engagement surveys, they're going to say, we are the best. We care for our, female colleagues. We worry for our diversity and all of that stuff. So we said, okay, let's reverse the whole philosophy. So we also went to the organizations and asked them about it. What we also did was we also looked at their numbers. We looked at their policies. We did a secondary research. We also did a lot of secondary interviews to say, how does this organization say and how does this organization really is? And that's how we then started to categorize organizations. So we said, there are leader organizations wherein people are saying that, yes, this organization is really a D&I or an IED good organization, and the data also tells us those. Then there was a set of organizations which we call as followers. They're not leaders, but they would be there someday. And then there are the laggards, right? I want you to keep this in mind, because now a lot of data that you would see coming up on your screens will help you to understand of how does this all work and where is that gap. Because I don't need to convince you that having D&I is important. McKinsey says so, BCG says so, SHRM says so, a lot of other organizations and research says so. But why is it not happening? Why are we so political about it? Why are we so unethical about it? And here is what, the research told us. I'm hoping this one moves. Okay. Can you just help me move the slides? Okay. So if you could just go back a little bit. So yeah, here is where it starts. So what I said before, at the top, the commitment, if not there, that's why it would go all haywire. क्यों कर रहे हैं आप? क्योंकि flavor of the season hai, global organization हूं मैं, so on and so forth. Just move a little bit, couple of slides, and I think, yeah, just one more slide, just one more slide. Yeah, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Now look at this data. Now this is very interesting, and I want you to look at this numbers. Now what you see over there is when the leadership within leader organizations have a diversity goal, this is how they look at. So within even the leader organizations, only half of leaders are really worried about their D&I goals, or have they done anything about it. Now, these are leader organizations. These are like the so-called big brands of the country, or the Fortune 500 or 100 companies of the globe. And trust me, this includes global data as well. It's not just an Indian phenomenon, it's a global phenomenon. Even within leader organizations, we found out that less than half leaders really have a clarity and are serious and are executing policies that you really see doing something. Leave aside, like building a toilet is a very small thing. 10 years back, yes, it would have been a big issue. But nowadays, are they really worried about it? It's like one of those own syndromes where they want to look good and want to talk about it, and that's what they do. Look at the laggards. It's not that everything has gone wrong, but only 17% of leaders within those organizations, who really want to do something about it. Talks a lot about, how the corporate world would kind of look at. If you could just move a slide more. This is the second most important aspect, the accountability and the transparency about it. A lot of organizations, a lot of corporates do talk about this is what we are doing about it. Because yes, it is a fashionable statement to make about it, right? But look at, when we ask people about saying, okay, who is accountable for your D&I? Who holds the fort for it? Now, when you look at it, right from the CEO to the DI team, leader, and see how the variation across the three groups that you see. In most of the leader organizations, you would see that the scores are pretty high, but as they come down where the rubber meets the road, the managers and the people who actually control my life at the workplace, those numbers significantly drop. See, if I'm working for an L&T, I don't work with the CEO every day, right? My CEO is my super manager or is my immediate supervisor. Even within the leader organizations, look at those numbers. When they look at managers or department heads, they believe only 50%, 44% of them really care about it. Now, if you go towards the followers and the laggards, it's even worse, right? Let's move a slide. I don't have to talk much about it, but let me show you certain data to say that while as a lot of organizations do talk about the initiatives, there is genuinely a dearth of organizations, and you can count it on fingers, who really have some real data and put it in the public domain to talk about it. If you could just move to the next slide. Yes, you would see a lot of organizations will tell you, we have the best systems in the hiring place for us. Yeah, of course, that's the easiest thing to put up. There's no dearth of, we are a 1.4 billion country. 50% of our population is women. And trust me, 80%, we are going to touch 80% education, targets, which means, a huge sizable amount of well-educated gender diversity. Look at the 10th, 12th class board exams across boards in India. You guys have always beaten us left, right, and center, right? Look at any classroom, right? We are the backbenchers. You sit in the front, right? So there is no problem of talent. And therefore, it's very easy for us as corporate to say, hiring mein to hum kar rahe hain, but I loved what, a lot of you actually asked about that. Yeah, somewhere between the road, we leave them aside. And I think as a society and as a corporate, we do not value the, see, if I'm here, because my wife at home is picking up my daughter from the school right now. If I am in Ahmedabad, because I know that at 2 o'clock my son would come back home and there's somebody to put food on the table. And we do not value that too much. And that's the missing gap between the corporate and the, the society. And we all, kyun nahi ho raha ye gap? Kyun nahi ja raha ye? And there are organizations. Yesterday I found out one organization, I'm not going to name them, came up with this to say that apart from the 6 months maternity leave, now we'll also, extend 1 year work from home. Oh, by the way, if you have a particular medical condition during pregnancy, we'll also give you another 3 months. You know what we have done now? We have ensured that 74% of hiring goes a little bit more down. Because जो last में वो manager बैठा है ना, the same concept. यार इतनी बसड़ नहीं लेनी, इतना नहीं करना. I need to get my things done. Therefore, which is why I kept on saying to Dr. Shah to say that you said something very powerful. All these policies, all these practices that we put up, they don't have development in the core. And therefore, whatever you do, whatever you try to put up in place, see, the rule of the law will prevail. There's a government policy coming up for all government and PSCs to say that by 20-something, 15% of your board members have to be women. Now, when we do a lot of these programs for them, and I'll tell you very honestly what these women tell me, 20-year experience, people who tell me, say that not even the worst of the men can stand that boardroom. I honestly don't want to be a part of that. Why are you forcing me into that? But yeah, we will get them. 15% तो हम बिठा ही देंगे ना, 10 में से 2 तो बिठा ही देंगे वहां पे, because rule है, policy है, हमने बनाई है. So it is much more deeper, I think, than what we try to kind of aim it through a lot of initiatives that we do. Now, please don't take me as the doomsday devil to say that everything is gone wrong and sab kharab ho chuka hai, because imagine, look at the last decade when you would look at IED, now start calling it IED, right? Now, when you would look at IED and look at the early 2000s and look at now, yes, the fact that we're talking about it, there's a bunch of, people who are voraciously talking about it, is in itself a proof to say that, yes, this matters. But yeah, have we reached where we want to be? We're very, very far away from where we have to be reached. Therefore, what do we do? Now, that's the question, right? That's the question in the room of what do we do? Honestly, no one size fits all. No one size fits it all. I loved what Ruchika, you said. Said allyship, because I think we are over mentoring, the woman workforce. वो damsel in वो distress हमें बचपन में ही पढ़ा दिया गया था ना कि you have to be, तुम भाई हो, in all things be men, help her, pick her stuff, all of that. It goes much deeper. And I think that's so right. We over mentor them to say, हम तुम्हें बताएंगे तुम्हें क्या करना है. We have no idea what you go through. We have no idea where you come from. And there's a BCG report, by the way, just that I'm throwing a lot of numbers. Let me throw another one. There's a BCG report says that there is a higher probability of women becoming an obstacle to IED programs than men, right? And trust me, I walk into a lot of organizations during the day, and I can trust me. I don't have a real data from SHRM around it, but trust me, it's equally, and that's a real challenge. And let's call it out in the room. Who are we? Why should we be politically correct here? Because if we are really serious about solving the problem, let's talk about these issues, right? And I've had a lot of women, young, people who joined workforce, and when we get into a coaching or a conversation with them, or even on mental health, where we get a lot of calls where people will say that I have a woman boss. And therefore I'm in distress, right? And the sad part is this is a woman herself saying that, right? And these are real issues that we have to deal around with, right? So, as I'm not the most intelligent in the room, so let my slide save me. Can we move to the next slide and say, what do we then therefore talk about? What are the things that can help us, to kind of help us feel better? This is another data set that, I just thought could be, as accountability and transparency. Where do you share it? Look at those numbers going down. Look at those general public, Even leader organizations, 15%. Oh, 15%, now statistics is the most dirty game. You know that. You know that 15% is put up in a very nicely cut out report to say that we are an equal opportunity provider. We have done all the tick boxes, checklists, and therefore we have arrived in life. Come and join us. And so, therefore, what do we do? And I think that's the question. आप पीछे जा रहे हैं एक और हाँ so what do we therefore do? Because I think I can share those reports. You go to the SHRM portal, just type in D and I. Trust me, you'll get all of this. Therefore, don't give me the kind of a credit that you think I'm very intelligent, but you can look at those reports in detail. But here is something that we have seen in a way that kind of helps organizations or the society at large to kind of move it in a better way. Chahe politically say, but invest karo yaar. This is so important, because it's like, I remember the traffic rules have been existing in this country since I was born in 1979, right? आज भी मैं जब आ रहा था ना, I saw a lot of people in Ahmedabad not wearing a helmet. So I asked the cab driver, यहाँ पे चालान नहीं कटता क्या? तो कभी-कभी कटता है. So, but I saw equally a larger population. And trust me, when you go to smaller tier 3, tier 4, towns now in India, you see a lot of people wearing seat belts and helmets. But that change, it took us like 75 years to bring that in. It came in, of course, with tough regulation, with challans, hold them accountable, pick them up by the ear. Whether it's political, whether you are just doing it because it's the flavor of the season, whether because your global has mandated it, or because you want to look good in public eye, please invest into it. And whether you're a small or a big organization, you don't need to really spend a lot of money around it. You celebrate a Diwali and a Eid. Why can't you celebrate one day for being a woman? Why can't you celebrate that? Put up, do something very basic, but do something about it. Make it an event, right? That's what the army tells us now, that the morning drill, the parade and everything, these are rituals. And rituals over a period of time become our culture and habits. Do this, make it a ritual in our organizations. Now, this one is very important. And I want to refer back to what I said before. I think the whole inclusiveness competition or that whole fight is about getting a feminine mindset at work. And I think a lot of you are asking those questions to say, kaise kare isko? And I'm sure that if you all reflect in your personal experiences at work, I'm not even getting into society or family, I'm not an expert over there, but at work, there are a lot of men who are very feminine mindset. And there are a lot of women, and I know I'm standing in a woman majority room, you're going to throw me out, but a lot of women who might be very masculine in there. I think, and there is enough research to prove us that you need more feminine mindset at work. And that's critical for business. That's critical for innovation. That's critical for bringing in more ideas. That's why the whole world is worried about it. That's why we are, the corporates are really worried about it. Because research found out that when you have more feminine mindsets, and unfortunately, the whole world went on a biological streak to say, let's get more women into the room. Of course, get women into the room. But I think the fight is about get more feminine mindset into the room. And once you achieve that, trust me, all those challenges that you were talking about will automatically go away. Therefore, one of the most basic things, which I loved what, Aruchika said, any organization that I get into and I say, okay, what are you doing about D&I? I still want to call it IED, right? What are you doing about IED? They'll say, we send women to this. हमने उनको mentor किया, हमने उनको ये कर दिया, हमने उनके toilet बनाए, हमने उनके लिए ये भी कर दिया, वो भी कर दिया. What about that 70% other population? What did you do to them? And you know that they have been brought up in a very different way, right? नहीं, उनका क्या करना है? वो थोड़ी ना biologically woman है, right? See, if you don't have men as allies, trust me, you do whatever. It will not fly off. It will never, ever fly off. You do whatever under the sun. You do whatever under the sun. You are not sensitizing the perpetrator of the whole problem. And you are just going on, telling the victim, तुम और ठीक हो जाओ, तुम और अच्छा कर सकती हो, right? And that's something, that needs to get into, the work more often. Think about it. How many women bosses would want to promote more women? I work for an oil and gas company, and I'm not going to talk about them, right? So I met this lady who's at the CXO or the leadership level. Only a lady. Of course, she gets a lot of media attention. It is a public sector company. So she gets a lot of media attention because सबका agenda है ना कि बेटी बचाओ, बेटी पढ़ाओ. Here is this lady who's really done it well. See, we're going to put her as the, like as a model for other women to follow. So one day we were in a public event like this. She was sitting next to me and I said, you must be you must be enjoying all of this attention. And she smiled, and that smile told me that there's something more deeper to that story. So after the event got down, we went. So I asked her, I said, there's something behind the smile. And you know what she told me? She said, in our environment, Ashish, it's a marketing. It's all about marketing yourself. And all the men, whether they market or network around a drink or a smoke or wherever, they get it done. And it's like, the man's world, bro code, एक दूसरे को खींचते हैं आशीष ऊपर. मैंने कहा तो मैम, now that you are in that power position, what stops you from doing that? Said, nah, you don't know these women, Ashish. And I think that's something we need to create more role models. And more role models, we need to create a clan. See, whether right or wrong, the world was built through a clan. You need to have a creed. You need to have your own circle of friends. If you're not doing that, if you're not promoting, it's going to be a difficult journey for us to create a more inclusive world. Right? And I'll tell you why this is so important. This is so important because there's an imposter syndrome that we built up into. आप ये नहीं कर सकती. आप वो वहां नहीं जा सकती. Therefore, some things that we will have to support, because you have to understand our education system, our society. And I'm not just talking about a woman. Imagine how many of our workforces, like all the educated people, are really ready for our corporate life, are really ready for our work. Very less. Why? Because, see, our systems, unfortunately, are not talking to the real world that we live in. And why should a woman's agenda be different? Therefore, if we want to bring them in, we need to do something. We need to arm them up. Because what we have done is, if you don't do this, it's almost like putting them in the spot and then ensuring that they fail. And that's much more worse because everybody is looking at that. And you know what? I'll tell you very honestly, everybody is waiting for them to fail, to say, Dekha, main to pehle hi kaha tha. Right? I think that's all that I had to talk to you, because honestly, there's nothing very different that I had to say about it. But I hope it was not a waste of your time. Thank you so much.
I don't think there's anything more left that I need to share. So I think I'll take very little time and keep more time for questions. Yeah. But of course, thank you. Thank you, Ashish, for those lovely insights. And again, once again, a very warm welcome to all in the audience and my very distinguished panelists as well. I come from the corporate world, so I think my sharing will be more from I'll tell you my own story, maybe my own experience, and more from the corporate world, because I've been in Shell for many years now. Started off when my daughter was 2 years old, and she's 24 now. So yeah, so that's so I'll probably share something quick, and then we'll take questions. I think yeah, maybe directly the third slide. Chirag, who's
So very quickly about Shell, just to give you a perspective. So yes, we have a very young population. Our average age is just about 35. Being in the HR fraternity, I take pride that we are very supportive to retain employees, and I'll say employees because I'll share the policies in a while. But we are a young talent spread across a lot of multiple skill pools. And of course, there is a lot of support coming because of the strategic ambition. Very lately, we have our country chair will be replaced by a woman. So we'll finally be 40% of Indian leadership. Our India leadership team will be women. Let's go to the slide with the cogs, Chira. Just quick highlight. So 30% of our women out of the 13,000, we are now 13,000 in India, are women. For me, I think it's the three cogs in a wheel, as I would call it. Starting from hiring, I'm taking all through the employee life cycle, yeah. So from the time you enter into Shell, so the hiring, and then the retention, and then what's the value proposition. Maybe I'll end it with my own little story. Starting from hiring, I think as a company, and again, my own experience in Shell, there is a lot of pay parity. So there's no discrimination. And I'm sure all corporates do that now. There's no disparity because of gender, including the policies and the benefits. So I started as a HR business partner for the regasification plant here at Hazira, and then moved on to do a lot of other roles in policies and benefits. I managed payroll for India. And now, of course, I'm in a global role, so less of India interaction. It's more, I'm now in learning and development. But all in this journey of mine, I felt the policies and the benefits are friendly. And if you have some more questions later on, I'm happy to take. The most important part, I think, is supporting women in that whole piece. When how could you basically retain your employees? How could you retain, especially when we're discussing gender parity, how can you retain women employees? So a quick sharing on our policies. Of course, it's maternity. Again, as per the Maternity Act, we also have now introduced a paternity policy, because you cannot discriminate. I mean, it's one family. The father, the daddy has as much as a responsibility in this whole upbringing, and so that's another one that's lately introduced. We have a child care support policy. I'm proud to say that was introduced when I was in the policy role, something very close to my heart, because maybe I've gone through it myself. So there is a very supportive childcare policy. There is sabbatical. So many times, one of my panelists spoke about the 3 M's, right? Marriage, maternity, and mobility. So I think the challenges for all women, most of the women, do come at different stages of life. It's marriage, it's then usually, in my experience, it's been maternity as well, because there's a whole lot of changes that you go through, right? I mean, you want to be successful, you don't want to miss out, but then there's this little beautiful child at home, and then there's a whole world changing. Somebody in the audience spoke about, you either take a pause or then you just miss out, right? Because of those life events. So sabbatical was introduced again, so that, you do not leave your job, you take your time, take your 2 years break. And the good part about that sabbatical policy was that you don't miss out on your retiral. So your gratuity doesn't take, it's not like a career break. So your continuity continues. There's also a lot of support for dual careers. Yeah, so between Shell, dual careers are supported. So if the couple are both in Shell, there's a lot of engagement. I think the essence of any corporate to, and in the whole scheme of retention, the more you engage with your employees, yeah, you were talking about in L&T, you'll have chai. What did you say? Something about just a discussion, right? With the woman when they return back, and then you'll get all those, the points to just ponder and then make policies. That's very, very relevant. I like that point very much. We also are doing a lot about returning moms, right? So for those who had to take a break because of life events, and then how can we get them back? Not necessarily that they are Shell employees, but the whole focus is to get back women back to the workplace. Women's network, I think something that I'm very proud of. In Shell, there are some very powerful networks. I stand for the women's network for Hazira. And I think personally, there are huge takeaways. Just, when you psychologically just share among the networks, mentoring happens greatly. Sponsorship happens a lot, because I think at some point of time, women need mentoring, of course, yes, allyship, yes, but you also need a sponsor. Sometimes to simply, a leader, when he or she puts that finger on that little name and in that org chart, it makes a difference, because somebody is actually endorsing your strength that you bring. Yeah, because you may not be very good with networking because there's limited time. I know when you're in a middle career of your life, when you're exactly neither junior, neither very senior, those are the times where your kids are like, somebody's in the 5th standard, somebody's in the 3rd standard, and you're running, packing, doing all kinds of things. That's when you need sponsorship. And that's where I think corporates generally, or as entrepreneurs, that's something that has greatly worked as well. Value, and the last one, of course, is the value proposition. I think we should, and I am a great propagator of this. We have this employee assistance program. There is a company that we have hired. I'm happy to say it's one-to-one help, basically, where, employee is very confidential. So it's only between the employee and that counselor and there are various topics that you can take counseling on. It came well in time, way before COVID hit us, and where actually mental health really, was something that was staring in our faces. And a lot of flexible work arrangement as well that is available in Shell. Part-time, there's something called job share, where 2 employees can do the same work, 70-30, 50-50, but that's something that was also introduced. Post-COVID, of course, and even before COVID, there was a lot of home working was a policy, and that has helped a lot of new moms, especially where you have your goals, your GPA is there, your goals are intact, and you have to deliver. So it's up to you to deliver, but you sometimes need that home working help, especially with traffics in Bangalore. I think traffics are getting horrible everywhere. So, and COVID taught us that, you don't need to, it's a virtual world. You don't need really to be there all the time, right? Yes, engagement happens. Engagement is needed. We need people. At the end of it, we are all human beings. We need people. But again, virtual world is great. I have been a virtual worker from the last 10 years, and Shell has allowed me to work from Ahmedabad. I've never had teams in Ahmedabad, always had them first all around the country, now all around the world. But you just need to be a little sensitive, especially when you're managing teams, because that's when you get a pulse check, because you can't see your employees' eyes if they are feeling low or they are not in the right time frame. But yeah, that's my story. I think again, on marriage, maternity, and mobility, I think the reason I stayed back in Shell was because Shell as an employer, and for me, Shell is my line manager. Yeah, people don't leave companies; they leave their bosses. So if you're not a sensitive boss, and if you, and today I've always, what I've got, it's just important that I give it back, and I constantly give it back, because I feel if I'm standing here today, it's because of all the line managers that I've had in Shell. I and mobility was another thing. Of course, I have a very supportive family, no doubt about it. But if you have a line who doesn't give you that support, it's always the support that you need is for a short time, right? You don't need it for long. And hence, when women come back, either, it is not necessary always for a maternity break. It can be some other life event. They will come back and they will need that little support, that little arm that you need to stretch out. And you see how they turn and how they turn around and how proud you feel that, you've made one sentence, some change in their life that they will always remember you. Today, as I stand here, I remember my line managers. I think when I moved to Bangalore for a role, it was, it was called Shell People, and I was there I took up the role. My younger daughter was 1 year old and the elder one was 7 years old. And I think armed with a maid who said, Didi, aapke saath main kahin pe bhi chalungi. So she was that one maid and my little daughter. And because my husband couldn't move, so he just set us up. But after that, as somebody said, it's then gender neutral, right? Then it's not that because you're a woman, you're going to eat. So you give your best. But those little times when my kids had 102, or, my boss was she's no more with Shell now. She's left, but relationships continue. So just a thought for all of you who are team leads or have your own businesses, remember this. You need to give a little support to the woman and they'll just turn it around for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Logo. We had such an enriching discussions today, and I'm sure that the audience will be ready with the questions. And I think we heard both sides. We heard Ashish. I was listening to Ashish very closely because he got a different dimension to today's discussion. And thanks, Ashish, for that. And very pertinent to realize that who's pulling you down, and not exactly the words that I'm using today. We know that it's always a struggle to convince and work with our own gender at home, at workplaces, and I think at many other places that we all as women relate. I have never heard a woman employee in my organization telling me that my father-in-law did not allow me to come early today, or he wants me to go early today because there's a function and he wants me to cook. That's the other way around. At the same time, we also listened to Dr. Hina, who mentioned about conditioning, that how the father expected the child to, the male child to go and play out and the woman child to help the mother. The conditioning actually really, really matters a lot. And I think the way of conditioning of all of us as women have now changed. I think what we teach our daughters and our sons are the same now. And that probably will be, enlightening us with a new era going forward. And that is what we are expecting to do. And again, like even Ruchika said and Ms. Feni said, organizations, because we are organizations, because we are corporates, because we are categorized as SMEs, we look about empowering women, we look about facilities, we look about how convenient we want to make workplaces for them. We also have to see that it all starts from the home. That is where it percolates from. So we have to all check our houses in order. The conditioning is very, very important. And that conditioning has to be inclusive. That conditioning has to be neutral. And I think all of us, when we go out of this room today, we have a lot of pointers to think about, a lot of inclusion patterns. It's D, E, and I, or I, E, and D. We need to go back and think about it. We have some paucity of time. I would like to take a few questions from the audience. Yes, sir, please. Good afternoon, sir. You need no introduction, sir.
I just came to hear this session because two of my very good friends are here, Poonam ji and Monica ji.
Yes.
And when I talked to Chirag, then he was so kind enough to invite me at certain short notice. But first, my gratitude to all the speakers for such a lovely, insightful, you shared your experiences, your thoughts, and I do wish to share. But first, I want to compliment Ashish for surviving the session, being the only man there. So congratulations. So the world is still not so bad. To begin with, there's something to go with something around 10 years back. There was MCA 21 project. You know that the new Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the whole rules came, and fortunately, I was one of the member of that MCA 21 project. It took around 4.5 years, and finally it was adopted. That time we said that there has to be at least one lady among the independent director. And we have been trailing it. Of course, now I'm not a member of that committee. Tenure is over. But 2013 till 18, still many companies did not have even a single independent I'm talking about, women director. So that is the reality. But second part, there was a Gallup study way back in 2016, which covered about the crux was that there is a dearth of leadership pipeline. You can't create leaders overnight, like Shell has got, Boeing has got, so many other companies. Hina ma'am talk about this. So pipeline is very important. So that's something. But I want to congratulate CII. There is a she, if you see the word. So there is a he in the she, and there is a me in the she. So as an academic, I was just contemplating that. Look how beautifully Chiragji has mentioned, but he has put everything in that. But historically, what is the problem? I tell you, on the lighter side, I came to know that the dining table is a problem. You must remove the dining table from the house. So go to the Indian way, sit on the ground, eat together. Nobody hits the dining table chair. So there is no hierarchy. So that will solve the problem immediately. But on the deeper side, see why we are facing this problem. Historically, we have been under occupation and intrusion for last almost 1700 years. So whenever the intrusion happened, after intrusion happened, so usually by tradition, the Asians, they won't like their ladies to be facing any kind of wrath at the hands of the enemies. So they were just shielded, and that shielding never went. Then the Mughals came, then Khilji dynasty came, then Sung dynasty, a lot of dynasty. Finally, the Britishers came, and then our own kingdom, 545 dynasties, and then our independence came. And when we became independent, things also did not change much because we are a very, very poor country. We are just developing. But now we are seeing the sunshine is coming. And we are very happy that the sunshine is coming. But every time we teach in the class, I teach a couple of courses with University of London as well. So when I tell them that when you are born as a woman, feel proud and happy to be a woman. But if you are born as a man, please learn to respect the women everywhere. Everything starts from there. But I'm very happy that so many organizations are doing a lot of wonderful work. And in this sequence, the government of India or the successive governments play a major role. Like you mentioned that, cosmetic things will not work out. We have to change something intrinsic down there. But once again, my compliments to all speakers for sharing lovely session. Many thanks, CII, for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, please.
Yeah, my question is to you as well as Dr. Hina, and if Mr. Ashish can also throw a line. Now, we heard a lot of good policies that these organizations are taking in terms of inclusivity and diversity. But what about the Indian women entrepreneurs who are into SMEs? So since you are from the manufacturing sector, so what kind of challenges were you facing, and what kind of policy advocacy do you expect from the government side as well as from the industry to cooperate women entrepreneurship, both in the manufacturing as well as service sector?
Thank you for the question. So like today we were discussing in the room before we came here that entrepreneurship is gender neutral.
And entrepreneurship comes to anyone, being a man or a woman, with a lot of passion and a lot of hard work. Um, while we were also discussing the fact that the bottom lines of any organization are not determined by the fact that the gender running the organization is a man or a woman, most of the times I'm asked this question by the media, by whoever I discuss with, that what challenges did you face as a woman entrepreneur? And I always say that I did not face any challenge as a woman entrepreneur, but my challenges as an entrepreneur were common: how to raise fund, how to retain employees, how to get the top lines, how to get the bottom lines in order, and how to multiply my business. So I think if these are the challenges of a business, then that remains common for any entrepreneur. At the same time, while you talked about how government is supporting women entrepreneurs, I think the fact that all the entrepreneurs or the women entrepreneurs these days have a lot of easy funding as startups as well, a lot of banks offering easy funds, no collateral money, and now also Modi ji promoting that all the houses has to be in the name of the women for whatever reason, that tax benefit that we are getting. I think that was the most biggest issue, because in our Indian system, females never had properties in their names, and we were left with no collaterals until the gold loans were introduced to us. So when the gold loans were introduced, we at least had something to pledge and get the money. I did pledge my gold. I wanted to start my own business, and I do not regret the fact. But today, if we ask ourselves, what is the collateral a woman has to start a business? Nothing. And if we are changing the perspective of the greater, population by saying that you get the tax benefit if you buy the house in woman's name, be it so. Be it so. And I think that is the most welcoming decision a government can take for a progressive economy going forward. So entrepreneurship, again, I would say, is gender neutral. We have to have a plan B. I heard a federal bank CEO talking about why women fail most of the times for getting loans. They have no plan Bs. If your business would fail, what do you do with your business? And also, are we taking this business as serious as how we are taking our homes? Do we have plans to, if I do not survive, where would my 50 people who are working for me go? I'm responsible for their, houses, or responsible for their incomes. So the seriousness, and again, that intimidation that, oh, I want to go and ask for money, whether I'm well prepared. Are you assured enough that you are well prepared? That education, that support from the house, from the ecosystem outside, and above all, your self-confidence is very, very important as an entrepreneur to go ahead and actually take that challenge. So again, gender neutral, but I'd like Dr. Hina to say what she feels about it.
Yes, women entrepreneurs are the biggest. We have only 12% women entrepreneurs in India. If we see our industrial data, and MSME ministry says that only 12% women are in entrepreneur field. Again, we are very, very less. But I would say the policies are there, as we said, that the policies are for inclusion. But whether it is Prime Minister Yojana or Vajpayee Yojana or whatever, they all go through the banks. When women go to the bank, they find it very, very difficult to get their loan sanctioned. They apply for 10 lakhs of rupees, they sanction 5 lakhs of rupees, and making the industry sick at that point of time. When it goes for the working capital, they ask for the collaterals. For the fixed capital, that is all right. But collateral, for working capital, it is collateral. So women, it has been said that there are policies for women, but when it comes to implementation, women also equally have to fight for it. So it is not very easy. My institution called International Center for Entrepreneurship Development, we are developing minimum 1,000 entrepreneurs every year at India level. And I would like to tell you, only 10% of the women get loans and others don't. And I'm not talking about only the urban women, but the rural women, the rural town women. Even father-in-law is a defaulter, the bahu will not get the loan. So when it comes to implementation, it is very, very difficult. And therefore, we only see 12% of women. Innovation is no less. Opportunities are no less. When the foreigners are coming here for market, we can sell anything in our own market. But to get women into entrepreneurial activity is very, very difficult. And not only with the policy, but women themselves are also not ready for the product, viable product to be selected. Listen, nahi, ghar ke paas hi kuch bik jaye na, aisa hi kharidna hai. We want to go for the dresses, and which is very easy to be made. I have to interact with the men. I have to go to other places. I'm not interested. So mobility, communication, so many things are included when we talk about women to become entrepreneurs. It is not only the policy, it is our own practices also. We are not very, very comfortable to go for marketing, go to the machinery manufacturers, assess the quality of the machines, technology, and I think government is still not doing enough for women to do the entrepreneurial activities as one of the leading activities in the country to change our GDP, because we need that 50% of partnership of women to be there. So that calls for education. I would still say that education requires not only history, geography, maths, and science, but entrepreneurship. I want to be on my own. I want to be self-sufficient. Swanirbar Bharat, mujhe banana hai. Ye qualities chahiye mujhe. Problem solving ability, initiative taking ability. Yesterday, one of the friends said, you know, ek achhi si ladki dikhao mere ladke ke liye. I said, okay. Then after some time, she calls and said, बहुत होशियार नहीं चाहिए, जो मेरी बात सुनो ना ऐसी चाहिए. So we are still in that situation. So it is a long time we require to bring the change in the policies and practices, but we all be able to do it. Thank you.
Yes, we'll take this one last question, please.
Hello. मैंने 7,000 किलोमीटर वॉकिंग करके मैंने पूरा इंडिया को घूमा है, और उसमें मैंने नॉर्थ ईस्ट में जब मैं जाता था तो वहां पे जितने भी डिसीजन है ना वो किचन में लिए जाते थे. यानी कि जितने मेंस है वो ड्राइंग रूम में नहीं बैठते, वो किचन में बैठते हैं, और हर एक डिस्कशन में जो मैन है वो विमेन्स की सलाह लेते, फिर उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं. लेकिन बाकी जगह मैं देखा तो वहां पे रेशियो अलग है. मैंने डिसीजन लिया, आपको एग्री करना है, ठीक है. तो काफी बार एज ए सोशल वर्कर तो मुझे लगा कि ये जो उनकी अच्छी चीज है, हम बाकी बोलते हैं कि खराब है, लेकिन दिस इज बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस इन द डेवलपमेंट उनके अंदर. तो मैंने बोला हमारे यहाँ हम कैसे उनको इम्प्लांट कर सकते हैं हमारे कल्चर के साथ, हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम के साथ, हमारा वर्किंग एरिया के साथ. तो बहुत कोशिश की, लेकिन क्या होता है कि हम तो छोटे हैं तो कौन सुनता है. तो मेरे दिमाग में क्लाइट हुआ कि जो शुरुआत है ना वो अपने से होनी चाहिए. कि हम अभी सब भाषण करेंगे, बात सही है, लेकिन हमारी जब बारी आती है ना तो हम साइड में खिसक जाते हैं. तो मैंने सोचा कि कैसे करें. तो मेरी मैरिज था, तो मैंने बोला कि हम अपनी वाली की रिस्पेक्ट कर लेंगे ना तो दुनिया करेगी ही करेगी. तो मैंने जब मेरी शादी हुई तो मैं तो मेरी वाइफ को फॉरेन ले नहीं जा सकता क्योंकि मेरे पास इतने रिसोर्स नहीं है. तो मैंने उनका जो वेलकम है वो इतनी डिसेंट तरीके से किया कि 500 फीट रंगोली बनाई, उसके आजू बाजू दिए लगाए, और ब्यूटीफुल तरह से उनकी एंट्रीज हुई. तो उससे एक इफेक्ट हुई कि भाई रिस्पेक्ट करने के जो तरीके हैं ना वो और भी हो सकते हैं. और जब मैं मेरी वाइफ की रिस्पेक्ट करूंगा तो दूसरे वाला ऑटोमेटिक करेगा. अभी हमारी सिचुएशन क्या है कि हमारी बीबी रोती है ना तो हमारा पेन होता है, और दूसरे वाली की रोती है तो हमें सहानुभूति आती है. तो मैंने बोला सहानुभूति यहाँ लेने की चाहिए हमें. तो वो जो शुरुआत है वो मैंने शुरू किया, और उसकी जो इम्पैक्ट है कि मेरा जो बदलता गया. जो अभी मेरी वाइफ का बेबी शावर था, हमने जो इनविटेशन कार्ड था वो 24 पेज का बनाया. और मैंने बोला कि हम क्या दे सकते हैं, तो बोले नॉलेज। तो हमने इनविटेशन कार्ड के अंदर, मैं पंचमहल से मैडम बिलोंग करता हूँ, वहां की सिचुएशन अहमदाबाद से 10 साल पीछे है। तो मैंने क्या किया कि भाई अभी जो जमाना है उसमें काफी सारी चेंजेस है। तो मैंने बोला प्रेग्नेंट वुमन, पहले तो फैमिली में रहते थे तो बता देते थे कि भाई ये तकलीफ होती है, तो सास बता देते ये कर लो, बाजू वाले। अभी तो सिंगल, तो अब पूछने भी कहाँ जाए। तो मैंने प्रेग्नेंट वीमेन को 9th मंथ क्या ध्यान रखना चाहिए, प्रेगनेंसी के बाद 1 साल के बच्चे के लिए क्या ध्यान रखना चाहिए, वो सारी डिटेल इन्विटेशन कार्ड में थी। दूसरी चीज कि यहाँ पे जितने लोग बैठे हैं, मैं आज को पूछूंगा कि भाई विमेन्स के लिए सरकार की कितना योजना है। ठीक है, 50% को पता नहीं है। अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं कि भाई ऐसी योजना होनी चाहिए, पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए, लेकिन नहीं पता है। तो हमने ऐसी 21 पॉलिसी जो है वो विमेन्स के लिए, कि भाई प्रेगनेंसी के टाइम पे 6,000 मिलते हैं आपको खाना खाने के लिए, उसके बाद की भी 11 योजना है। तो सारी योजना को मैंने मेरे इन्विटेशन कार्ड में छाप दिया, वहां QR कोड था, वो योजना का लाभ लेना, स्कैन करो, सीधा वो फॉर्म ही खुल जाएगा। तो कहने का मतलब कि एक इस तरह की जो नई चीजें है वो हमें भी अप्लाई करनी पड़ेगी। जो मैडम ने एक चीज बोली थी, सदियों से चली आती प्रथा है ना, हम इंडिविजुअल जो उनको चेंज करेंगे, तो मुझे लगता है कि सबसे बड़ा जो चेंजेस है वो यही है। और जो कल्चर जो है उनको बदलना है, तो काफी चीजें ऑटोमेटिक बदल जाती है, रिसोर्स की जरूरत नहीं है। मैं जब भी मेरी वाइफ प्रेग्नेंट थी, हम किसी को पैर छूते थे तो मुझे लोग बोलते थे भगवान तुझे बेटा दे। मैंने 50 लोगों के साथ झगड़ा किया, आपने ऐसे आशीर्वाद क्यों दिया, कि भाई आप, हम किसी को नहीं बोल सकते कि तुम लड़का ही दो। तो मैंने बोला कि आप आशीर्वाद अच्छा बच्चा दे, लेकिन आप ऐसे जनरलाइज नहीं कर सकते कोई वही दे। तो मैंने कोशिश की और मुझे लगता है कि इसीलिए मुझे बेटी आई। तो कहने का मतलब कि जो चेंज जो है वो इंडिविजुअल व्यक्ति से भी होना चाहिए। खाली पॉलिसी तो है ही, उससे तो चेंज होगा ही होगा, लेकिन हमारा इंटरनल जो हम जो कर सकते हैं उनसे भी हम करेंगे तो भी सबसे बड़ा चेंज हो सकता है।
थैंक यू। आई थिंक आपके लिए तो हमें एक उठ के ताली बजानी चाहिए। और थैंक यू सो मच। आपका नाम जान सकते हैं?
मेरा नाम चेतन पटेल है
चेतन।
और मैं सृष्टि करके एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है उसमें काम करता हूँ।
चेतन जी थैंक यू। आपने आई थिंक हमारे सारे पूरे प्रोग्राम का एक निचोड़ सही में आपने दे दिया। और थैंक यू सो मच कि आपने ये पर्सपेक्टिव हमसे शेयर किया। आई थिंक आपके जैसे फादर ही ये सारी दुनिया को एक डिफरेंट डायमेंशन तक ले जा सकते हैं, और ऑफ कोर्स आपके जैसे हस्बैंड्स भी। सो आई थिंक आपके लिए एक अलग सेशन की जरूरत है जहां पर क्राउड में सिर्फ मेन हो। सो थैंक यू सो मच आप अपनी कहानी शेयर करने के लिए एंड हमें सबको इंस्पायर करने के लिए। थैंक यू। यस मोनिका।
I feel that I have nothing for closing remarks now. So, it has been an overwhelming session, and the speakers, a big thank you for coming today and sharing the part of your journey, sharing how you look the world and how you have bring the change. So, we are all here on a working day morning, which is something very exceptional, and to listen this eminent speaker's journey on addressing gender gap, implementation of gender inclusive workspace, and much more. And I first want to congratulate every one of you to be here. And I would like to thank CII and US Consulate for initiating this discussion today for us. I would like to thank Ms. Poonam, Ms. Tejashwari, Dr. Hina, Ms. Ruchika, Ms. Feni, Mr. Ashish, and Ms. Ozil, for every one of you to come here and share your thoughts here. Friends, I represent IWN here. IWN is Indian Women Network, and CIA launched IWN with a vision to develop the largest community for professional working women in India. And our goal is to help women to reach their maximum economic capabilities. And we are always very happy to be part of such events, and we organize events and leadership programs for women across the India. And we have a chapter in Gujarat here. And as a part of IWN, I totally relate to the thoughts that were reflected here. Even as we
we say that we have designed policies, we say that we have designed programs, leadership, mentorship. But today the program told me that it depends on how we implement, and it is not responsibility of one gender. It is responsibility of every stakeholder which is present in this ecosystem to make sure that these policies, these reservations, or this programs are implemented, not like people like him, to the ground level, to the corporate level. And I think this is today's program has taught me this very well. I'll, okay. Yeah. So once again, I would thank all the speakers for addressing this important topic and look forward to more such engagement in the futures. You all have a feedback form on your table, and we request if you can share your feedback regarding the program today. And it is also followed with a lunch. So please join us for the lunch, and we'll get to meet every one of you individually as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone present here. Thank you, all the speakers and the CII team present here. It has been a great event, and I would say it has been overwhelming for a working day for all of us to go back with a lot of thoughts. Thank you. Yeah, I told we'll move for the lunch. We'll take a photo. Yes.
Is that your phone?